Time for the final word in sports all across the state. You're listening to Sports Talk with your hosts, Phil Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. You've been waiting all day, so join the show now by calling 800-956-7266.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome into Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network on what is going to be a crazy Friday night, a wild weekend. We get things started with you tonight here on Sports Talk. Phil Kornbluth covering the Gamecocks this weekend up in Knoxville, Tennessee, as the Gamecocks try to make it 2 in a row on the season in this particular stretch and 2 in a row over the Vols, as they'll kick it off at noon tomorrow on ESPN. The Vols, a 3-point favorite over the Gamecocks. We have Professor Tom Hayes back at our studios in downtown Columbia, and Will Pelagic is covering the Clemson Tigers. He is at the Carrier Dome at Syracuse because, unfortunately, because of the week in Pansy ACC, they play games on Friday nights, and Clemson has to participate in it. They don't have a choice, and so tonight they're playing at Syracuse. And let's go up to Will Pelagic now, live at the Carrier Dome, awaiting the kick tonight at 7 o'clock on ESPN. How are you, sir?
Good evening, Corn, and welcome to the Carrier Dome in Syracuse. It is a very nice Indian summer evening, but as you know, we play indoors here in central New York. Crowd is assembling here at the Dome. We are just about an hour away from kickoff. What I can tell you, Kelly Bryant's on the field. He's in pads, and he is testing out that supposedly injured ankle, which they say is good enough to go. Hunter Johnson's on the field as well, as the Tigers will go white on white today. And they'll go against the Syracuse Orange team that will wear orange. Orange tops, blue bottoms. It is going to be an interesting contest and a contrast of styles because, as we've talked about all week, Syracuse loves to go tempo, and they love to use a fast-paced offense. They think that they have the ability to try and put some points up on the board, but they haven't seen a defense like this Clemson Tiger squad, which is still in the top 10 in scoring defense and total defense both. Should be a very interesting test for Clemson on a short week ahead of a bye week.
Indeed, indeed. And I guess it'll be a little hard to differentiate between the Syracuse orange in the stands and the Tiger orange in the stands. Did you run across many Clemson fans making your way to the Dome?
You know, I have, Corn, and it's interesting. A lot of Clemson fans have opted for the purple alternate look today because of the fact that is a secondary color. Syracuse's secondary color, as you know, is dark blue. So I've seen a lot of Clemson purple, but I've also seen a lot of Clemson orange. I just literally walked past somebody in the concourse here with a Sammy Watkins #2 jersey. A lot of Clemson fans around town this weekend, as well as not only here at the stadium, but also in some of the bars and watering holes and restaurants around town. There's a lot of Clemson presence, but as you said, Corn, it's going to be hard to tell Clemson orange and Syracuse orange. The two shades are very, very much the same.
Will, what about the buzz in Syracuse about this game? I mean, Syracuse is like North Carolina and Duke. It's a basketball school. They love Jim Boeheim. They love their basketball program. It's their pride and joy. Though they've had a great history of football going way, way back, and of course they've had some great players come out of that program, and they're rebuilding under Dino Babers. And what seems to be the buzz that you heard around the city about having the #2 team in the country come in and their belief that they can possibly upset the Tigers?
Well, it's funny you mentioned the whole basketball school thing. Literally, once I got on campus, you know the way that the geography is here. The downtown area kind of sits in a bit of a valley, and the campus is up on the hill. And literally, once I got to the top of the hill, the first two jerseys that I saw were Carmelo Anthony basketball jerseys, worn by two young men who probably were toddlers when Carmelo Anthony spent his 1 year, the national championship year here at Syracuse. So it still very much is a basketball school, but I think there's a little novelty to this one tonight because while I think Syracuse fans, if you ask them and pump truth serum through them, they would tell you that they're expecting a loss tonight. But I think this is a measuring stick. They want to try and see just how much farther they have to go in this rebuilding project under Dino Babers. And it's weird. When we talked to Matt Park last night, I think he hit the nail right on the head in that so much of this program and so much of what they're trying to accomplish has basically been bred from impatience when it comes to some of the previous coaches that have been here. I think it will take the right type of athletic director and the right type of patience, and also the coach with the right type of mettle to turn this program into what it once was, which was, I mean, a program that in the Big East was a contender, not necessarily perennially, but every so often. And I think, too, I mean, you said they have a history. I mean, they have Jim Brown jerseys around here. They have people who wear Donovan McNabb jerseys and guys like Walter Reyes and players of that nature who had success at Syracuse, but it hasn't happened in quite a while for them. And I'm curious to see if the games have gone very much to the tenor of the way Clemson's conference schedule has gone, and the fact that they let Wake Forest and Boston College hang around. I'm wondering if Syracuse hangs around this contest against Clemson, whether or not that fan base will start to play into effect here.
Well, I do think Clemson has to be on its P's and Q's, so to speak, tonight, because one thing about Syracuse now, they do have a very good quarterback, and they do have some dangerous receivers. They spread it. They play tempo. But then again, Clemson's defense has seen all this before, and will they rise to the occasion time and again, whether it's Lamar Jackson at quarterback or terrific running game at Auburn. Whatever the case may be, this defense has risen to the occasion time and again.
They have, and it's fair to say that Syracuse is not necessarily even in the top half of the level of teams that Clemson has played this year. I mean, this will be their 7th game. I would probably rate them a little bit ahead of Boston College, but behind Wake Forest as far as tenure goes, as far as whether or not they will give Clemson a requisite game. But as we've said over the course of this week, any team can do a variety of things to any other team. And the one thing that Syracuse does know how to do is score. And if they can get into a track meet with Clemson, I think it's something that certainly befalls them. Any low-scoring affair favors Clemson. But in the matter of fact, it also could be a rout. You never know. This is I would say that this is a different kind of team than they've seen all year, but in a way, for Syracuse, this is a different kind of team that they have ever seen over the course of this particular stretch of play for them.
All right. Thank you, Will, and we'll get back in touch with you later in Sports Talk as you're probably getting close to the end of the second quarter or so and get another quick update from you. Reminder to everybody, keep in touch with Will on Twitter at SportsTalkSC as he covers the game for us up at the Carrier Dome. His post-game coverage at SportsTalkSC.com. He'll have, of course, the post-game locker room covered for you as well as a live Periscope as soon as he comes back upstairs from the interviews. I think it's one of the neat things that we can do, and that is get on Twitter via Periscope as soon as we come back up from the interviews, and we can tell you exactly what the mood of the team was, what the coaches and players were saying, and maybe some little tidbits of information. So make sure you follow us for that tonight. Clemson and Syracuse at 7. I think the Tigers are going to win, but in terms of the points, I'm taking the points. I'm taking Syracuse in the 22. I think Syracuse might score some points here and not win, but keep it within that range of 22.
Well, Will was talking about Syracuse playing tempo. Last time I checked, I don't think you can develop tempo when you go 3 and out. The key to Clemson in this game, Phil, I think they're going to be ultra aggressive early in that defensive front. They want to make Syracuse quarterback make a quick decision, not a thoughtful decision, not go through his progressions, making him uncomfortable. I see the Tigers getting some turnovers in this football game, getting some short fields, and I'm taking Clemson. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say they're going to win by more than 3 touchdowns.
All right, well, if they hadn't let me down in these big spread situations of Boston College and Wake Forest, I might be a little more confident, but I'm going to take these points at home. I think this is going to be a very inspired Syracuse team after being embarrassed by Clemson last year, 54-0. Again, Eric Dungy is a good quarterback with good receivers. They'll throw it 50 times. They threw it 49 times against Pitt, so they'll fill the air with the football if necessary, which it probably will be necessary tonight against the Tigers. All right, we'll be back. A little high school talk. David Shelton coming up.
Debut Sunday. No, I was saying Mike Williams, the former Clemson wide receiver, is supposed to make his NFL debut with the Chargers. He's been kind of nicked up. Let's see here.
This is the place to talk Tigers, Gamecocks, and more. Sports talk across the state on the South Carolina Radio Network.
Also the place to talk high school football here on Sports Talk as we welcome in David Shelton of the High School Sports Reports and the Charleston Post and Courier. Give you a preview of tonight's high school football games across the state of South Carolina, brought to you by Farm Bureau Insurance. With new auto insurance rates from Farm Bureau, you could be saving a whole lot of money, even if you've received a quote before. Rates are now more competitive than ever, so go get a no-obligation quote today at favrates.com. David Shelton joining us now. So a lot of good games tonight, and you got the game up in Spartanburg and Dorman. These two teams got off to crummy starts, but they have played some great football since the first couple of weeks of the season. Now they meet tonight, and it's going to be, I guess, a typical showdown in the Sparkle City.
Yeah, that's always a huge game in Spartanburg. And like you said, both teams kind of stumbled out of the gate a little bit, but you kind of knew, and I think I've said it on your show before, that come mid-October, they're going to be in the thick of things. You just gotta be patient. And And here they are. I mean, one of these two teams is probably going to win that region. And certainly the winner tonight will have a great leg up, so to speak. But, yeah, it's going to be a great atmosphere up there. I'm sure there are going to be, thousands and thousands of people up there, as there always are.
Mm-hmm. All right, Fort D tonight playing a nearby rival, Ashley Ridge. Will this be the typical Fort D route, or does Ashley Ridge have something for them?
I think Ashley Ridge can do some things offensively to give themselves a chance, and they're pretty good on defense. But I don't think they're ready for this. I made a mention on Bobby Harton's show earlier today that I thought the carry-on Joyner would actually have to play in the second half, but I definitely think Fort Dorchester's the better team.
All right, some of the other good matchups tonight to get your thoughts on. North Augusta and South Aiken. What about that matchup?
Yeah, that's a real big game there, and the winner of that game is going to win that region. So it's very important to come out on top of that, because you get that number one seed in the playoffs, and the way the playoff bracket's set up, they'll have a couple of home games. So, two really good teams. South Aiken is continuing the progress they made last year, and Brian Thomas at North Augusta, it's fourth year, and he's really got a very experienced veteran team. Both these teams have really good quarterbacks and a lot of veteran guys that have been 2 and 3 year starters. And again, it's another rivalry matchup, so I look for that to be a good barometer of where they're going to end up in the playoffs in terms of their legitimate chances to I guess challenge South Point in the end.
Yeah. How about this Greer and Greenville game in the Upstate?
I think Greer's the better team. Greer kind of had that showdown with Eastside last week, another undefeated team, and blew them out. Their speed, their size. Greenville's got some playmakers, and they're certainly capable of winning this game. But I think their schedules have been a little bit lighter, and that has helped them win some games that they were just better than the opponent. This will be Greer will certainly be the best team that Greenville has played to this point.
All right, visiting with David Shelton, High School Sports Reports, Charleston Post and Courier, high school preview here on Sports Talk. Timberland and Manning. Manning having a very good year. Timberland as well. Who's the favorite in this one?
Well, I think with Manning having lost to Hanahan earlier in the region schedule, I think this is a must-win for them to have a shot because in that region also is Bishop England, and Manning still has to play them. So, if Timberland can win this game, I think that really puts them in position to win the region. It's going to be a very physical game. Both these teams have really good athletes and pretty good on defense. So I don't look for a lot of scoring, and I just look for a very physical game.
Cheraw and Lee Central, couple of teams in AA having really good years and battling for that region crown. What's been the key to Lee Central having, a couple of years ago we talked about them. They were having a really good year. Then I think they kind of dropped off a little bit. Now they're having another really good year. What's been the key for them?
Well, I think their defense has played very well and against some really good offenses. Now, they'll be challenged tonight against Cheraw because Cheraw has got a lot of weapons on offense. But both these teams really have been winning with defense. And I think I think the team that plays the best defense tonight is going to win. But when you look at Lee Central, I don't think a lot of people had them picked to be this good. So they've kind of quietly snuck up on people. But they won't sneak up on Cheraw tonight. Cheraw will be ready for them.
Talking about defense, I'm just scanning some stats here, and I see that Bamberg Earhart is yielding 4.6 points per game. How's that possible?
Yeah, well, that's nothing unusual with those cats. They normally play really good defense at Bamberg, and this is a team they'll run into. I guess maybe next week or the week after they play Barnwell, that'll be they have very good athletes and they're very well coached. And their schedule has not been extremely difficult, but like I said, they're always going to be good on defense because the athletes they put out there, they always run very well, and they're well coached. They got great teams.
All right, this last one, David, down in 1A tonight, it's Lamar, which is having a great year. You talk about playing great defense. That's Lamar. Lamar against Timmonsville. The Whirlwinds, just love saying that name, Whirlwinds. Can they do anything with this Lamar team that's averaging over 37 and only allowing 7?
Timminsville has come on late and won some games and got themselves in position, I guess, to challenge for that region title. But I don't think they're ready for Lamar. I mean, Lamar is really playing at a different level in Class A right now. The way they handled Louisville really opened some eyes, and it's kind of like South Point. They're going to have a bad night, and somebody's going to have to play really above their head to beat Lamar. And I just feel that way. I've seen Hemingway, and Hemingway in Class A is certainly athletic enough to play with those cats. But Timminsville, I just don't think is going to have enough for Lamar tonight.
All right, where are you setting up camp tonight?
I am in Beaufort, South Carolina, and Berkeley Stags are visiting Beaufort, another key region game. And, as we get to the final 3 weeks, every game is huge. Both these teams are undefeated in the region. Beaufort's undefeated overall. Certainly this will be their biggest test. Berkeley's the best team they played to this point, but I'm looking forward to a great game.
All right, last week, really kind of a mundane Friday night, no really big upsets to talk about. Are you looking for any of the elite to fall tonight?
No, not in the top half of each classification. I don't see any game that kind of goes, oh, that could be an upset. Anything can happen with teenagers, but there's just nothing out there right now that really is I'm going to be watching for an upset. Now there could be some happen, but I think the games, like I said, they're so important now. You're playing for region titles, you're playing for positioning in the playoffs. So all these games are very important. I just don't see anything that looks like a major upset.
Okay, my friend. Thank you. We'll talk to you later tonight.
Okay, man. Take care.
David Shelton, he'll join me tonight for the high school scoreboards beginning at 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock, 10:30, and 11. We give you all the scores from across the state and David's expert analysis. That's why we call him BIB, Best in Business, BIB. And we thank him for being with us tonight. All right, we got to address the elephant in the room, Pro, the news that came out today from the NCAA, basically saying that, yes, North Carolina was wrong in a lot of things here. They did some bad things related to these classes or so-called classes, but we, the NCAA, are powerless to do anything about it despite 3.5 years and millions of dollars spent on investigating this situation, and no penalties whatsoever from the NCAA for North Carolina.
Apparently $18 million in your legal fund buys you a clean slate. The interesting thing, Corn, is this. The athletes in North Carolina make up, I would say, roughly 4 to 5% of the student population. Yet, 50% of the athletes during those years took those courses. What does that tell you? The decision tells me that I'm going to start some CRIP courses at my school and then just slowly funnel some athletes there. North Carolina got away with it. That's what I hear from the decision.
Just simply shocking how this all turned out. North Carolina should not feel good about this, though I'm sure they do. We'll be back. All right. It is time to get down to some serious business here of picking football games. That's why we've got Lee Sterling coming up in a few minutes. In between now and then, we'll have some fun picking football games as we welcome in for another edition of the award-winning Football Filibuster named Best Show in America, featuring one former and one current politician. We welcome in former Governor Jim Hodges, current Attorney General Alan Wilson to Sports Talk. And two men, as far as I know, when they went to college, did not take bogus classes, were not given fake grades, unlike their friends to the north in Chapel Hill. Governor Hodges, your take on what happened today in North Carolina.
Well, I think we're all a bit stunned by that, but the North Carolina folks have been talking for some time like they were going to be able to escape by without any penalties. It's kind of hard to imagine you buy Coca-Cola for someone and there's a penalty imposed, but you commit academic fraud and you don't.
Yes, that's the NCAA. General Wilson, if you had, I don't know how much money they spent, several $1 million to investigate something, whatever it was, if you had you do have several $1 million. I mean, couldn't you dig up something to stick in a case like this?
I really don't know. I really don't know what I would say. The only thing I can really say after what I've learned today is it's finally nice to know that the rest of the country knows which of us is the real Carolina. That's really all I can say.
There's the honest Carolina and there's the crooked Carolina, as far as we know. But it is sad that you spend 3.5 years and then you come up and you say, well, we can't do anything about this. We know that something is wrong. We know this smells. We know it stinks. We can't do anything about it yet. We know that they had athletes galore take those classes. They should have been ineligible, and every game they played, regardless of the sport, should be a forfeit. That's what happens in the NCAA rules. When you play an ineligible player, you forfeit the game. So seems to me, I'm a common man with a very small brain, but it seems to me if you take a course that's a bogus course and you get a bogus grade, it makes your transcript bogus, and that makes you ineligible. Governor Hodges, does that make sense?
It does, and you think poor Todd Gurley missed 3 or 4 games a couple of years ago for selling his game jersey or selling a helmet.
Yeah,
I mean, give me a break.
Yeah. And what about what they did to Syracuse? And Syracuse was an academic-related case, and Jim Boeheim was suspended for part of a season, and they had to vacate 100 and something wins. Am I right about that?
Well, you are, and I think unfortunately shows the double standard of the NCAA. I think North Carolina spent the correct number, I believe, is $18 or $20 million on this case, and that's probably the best indicator is they fought it tooth and nail, and other schools were willing to accept their punishment. But this is a very discouraging step.
All right. To more fun things. Let's pick some winners. How about it? You did a good job last week, Governor Hodges. 4-1. General Wilson 2-3. So, Governor, you have taken the lead, 18-12. General, you're 16-14. But this is a marathon, not a sprint. We got a lot of football left to be played. So let's get at it. And General, we'll let you lead off. We'll go back and forth. I kind of like that. Something that Will started. So we'll do that. We'll alternate. So, General, you'll go first and tell us about Texas A&M at Florida with the Gators laying 2.5.
I'm going to go with Florida covering because I feel like last week's disappointing loss to LSU has got him motivated. So I'm going to pick Florida to cover this one.
Governor?
I'm with the General on that. The sexy pick this week's been A&M, but I really believe Florida's going to bounce back and win that game by a field goal.
Okay. I don't know. I'm not sold on Florida. I'm not sold on them at all, and I think A&M can score some points down there. Auburn at LSU. Governor Hodges, the home team, getting 7.
Hard to believe that LSU would get 7 at home, but I believe it's justified here. I'm going to take Auburn.
You want Auburn? Ooh, General, what do you think?
I've gone back and forth on this, and so I originally had LSU covering because they're
they're LSU. But I'm going to go with the Governor on this one. I think Auburn can clear 7 points. Although this is in the swamp at LSU, and as bad as LSU's been this year, they do that home court advantage really does help. But I'm going to go with Auburn.
You got it. I'm just proud that neither one of you said I want the Tigers, because I was going to impeach whichever one of you came up with that. Georgia Tech at Miami. Georgia Tech in that running machine. And Mark Richt got his team undefeated. He's laying 5.5. General Wilson.
Well, I'm going to go with Miami covering.
Mm-hmm. Miami laying the 5.5. Governor?
I'm taking Tech. Combination of funky offense, and I think there's going to be a little letdown after that Florida State win for Miami. So I'm going to take Tech.
All right, you got the Techers. Let's go to the locals now. I'm up here with the Gamecocks, USC at Tennessee. The Gamecocks are feeling good. The Vols are not, but they've had 2 weeks to get ready. Got a new quarterback going into this thing, and they're still favored by 3, Governor Hodges.
I am going to take the Gamecocks. I thought they looked really good last week. I don't believe the players are playing that hard for Butch Jones. And things are really bad at Rocky Top. So let's take the Cox on this one.
Just the kind of game the Gamecocks lose. General?
It's a trap game. I agree with you. This is a trap game. It scares me because of how well we played and how bad Tennessee played 2 weeks ago, their last game. But I am going to go against my fear and go with the Governor on this one and call the Gamecocks covering.
Both of you want the Cox. You got them. Let's go to the game tonight. Of course, I am on record as being passionately opposed to college games on Friday, and I think the ACC does nothing but lure itself by making its teams play on Friday night. Second time in the last, 3 years that Clemson's played on a Friday night. They had to go to Boston College. Was it last year they went to Boston College and played on a Friday? I know it was recently they went to BC and played on a Friday, and they're having to play tonight up at Syracuse. So this is, I think, General Wilson, your pick, Clemson at Syracuse, the Tigers laying 22.5.
I think Syracuse can cover. I think Clemson's going to win, and I think they'll win handedly, but I think it'll be under 22 points.
So you want the orange and the points?
Yep, Syracuse covering.
You got them. Governor Hodges.
I'm taking the points, too. Dabo has to get down to Alabama for that championship celebration, so he's going to be ready to get out a little early. I think Clemson wins it handily, but more like 17.
All right. What do you think that means, by the way? You know, he's going to be showered with affection and love and cheers from the Alabama fans. You think they're trying to throw some rose petals his way to pave the road to Tuscaloosa one day for him?
I don't think so. I think they're doing what they should. They're honoring one of their great championship teams, and he was part of that. So I think he's justified in being down there. I think he's really happy at Clemson, and I doubt he's going to be leaving anytime soon.
Well, I agree. All right. So you only disagree on one game. So, General, you want to make any amendments here?
So I think it's the Georgia Tech at Miami. We split on that one, right?
Correct.
Yep. Okay, the Governor picked Georgia Tech. Okay, I'm going to revisit this because, I got to go deep on this one because I'm down 2. So I'm going to flip my vote on the Auburn at LSU game. I had Auburn covering. I'm going to switch that to LSU because they are in the swamp, and I think if LSU is going to lose, it's going to be by less than a touchdown. So I'm going to go with LSU covering.
In Death Valley, it is. All right, we'll give you LSU as you make the amendment. Thank you, guys. As always, we enjoyed it. Have a great weekend. Look forward to being with you next week. That's our football filibuster on this Friday edition of Sports Talk. We'll be right back.
Time to put your money where your mouth is. Put up your feelings, let's fight it out. He's a hustler. If you don't got gas, you won't be getting no sticks. And if you don't got money, you want some money. If you don't got gas, you won't be getting no. He's a gambler. At the house running young and then we got paid.
Show them the next item up for bid.
Money, money, money. Time to get down to the serious talk of picking winners now. A man who has won for 7 straight weeks, and he is red hot as he joins us here on Sports Talk. Did we lose him? Are you telling me we lost him? Okay. We lost Lee momentarily, so we'll reconnect. Lee Sterling is coming up here in just a moment on Sports Talk, and he's going to release 3 30 to 35 unit selections, 26 and 5 on those selections dating back to last November. This is part of his 7-game for $77 special. ParamountSports.com. ParamountSports.com is where you can get his information online as we welcome Lee into Sports Talk once again. So I've been bragging about you. I've told everybody about your special. Yep. I have pumped the website. What else you want to say?
That's it. I'm happy Miami won. Finally, games are relevant, possibly going into November. So,
and this is a hot time of the year for you. 7 straight winning weeks.
Yeah, we hope it continues. So, like I said, they want to get involved. Just go to the website. Just had a feeling this was going to be a special year after we'd won like the first 3 or 4 weeks. So don't wait until we've won 11 or 12 weeks. We've got three huge games in college football included in that 7-game package. 7 games, $77. ParamountSports.com.
All right, let's get to it. Your homeboys, Miami, laying 6 against a dangerous Georgia Tech team.
Yeah, and here's a problem here for Miami. That win last week against Florida State, a lot of injuries during the game. Mark Walton gone for the year. 2 defensive backs will miss this game. Their best offensive lineman, Donaldson, and possibly their top receiver, Amon Richards. So if you're down 5 guys and you're facing a team like Georgia Tech that had a bye week looking for revenge for last year's 35-21 loss, they've scored at least 33 points in all 4 games here. And Paul Johnson, 8-2 against the spread. The last 10 as a road underdog here. Miami might need a real good crowd to get them pumped up here, especially in the second half to keep it going. I think Miami might be able to pull out the win 30-28, but I'm taking the 6.5 points here in Georgia Tech.
I think that's a good play. You mentioned the crowds. I mean, are the fans coming back for the regular games? I know they show up for the big ones, but are they excited about what Rick is doing?
Well, they did last year. We had some good, but with the hurricane, the whole situation, and the students weren't there for either of the first 2 games because of the hurricane. So they only had probably about 40,000 the first 2 games. They're expecting 55 to 60,000 there tomorrow. So they might need it.
Yeah. I think Georgia Tech's having a good year. They got an exciting quarterback. When Johnson's got a good quarterback, he's dangerous. Yeah. Auburn and LSU. Auburn is laying 6. What do you think?
Well, Auburn last week did the smart thing after they were up big. They pulled a bunch of their starters, and I mean they're really playing well. Their defense, number 6 in the country. Stidham's finally playing well. Johnson, the running back, is a threat to go the distance on any play. And I just think that LSU last week, they knew that was their big game. There was a lot of bad blood between Florida and LSU, and they put their heart and soul, the players did and the coaches, to win that game, and they were successful. But if that game goes another quarter, they lose the game by 2 touchdowns. They had nothing left. So sometimes you got to watch a game and see how it progresses. I don't think that LSU can bring it 2 weeks in a row. I like the Auburn Tigers 30-17 over the LSU Tigers.
All right, let's go to tonight's game. Clemson favored by 22 against Syracuse. I'm mad at the Tigers about these big spread games that they're not covering. They've burned me twice.
Yeah. But here's a chance for them to cover. Syracuse, number 2 in offensive plays per game. You have to know there's so many things that go into a game, and if Syracuse was to slow the game down and they're, maybe getting 60, 62, 63 snaps a game, might be something different, but they're averaging 86 snaps a game, and when you're trying to keep the score close, the more possessions means the better team usually wins by a larger margin here. I'm really not concerned whether it's Kelly Bryant or Hunter Johnson or both of them in this game here. The Cuse here, they picked the wrong team for homecoming. Clemson 7-2 against the spread, run on the road. I like Clemson big, 48-21.
Does the orange quarterback and those receivers worry you at all from a Clemson standpoint?
No, they're good. I mean, they move. That's their strength, and when you don't have the power and the skill to take on a Clemson team, you spread people out, and they're going to gain yards. They're going to gain probably 350 yards in this game. But what you hope to do is you hope to have them make a couple mistakes, and you hope to wear them down, and they should be able to score probably at least 3 out of every 4 possessions on offense.
All right, to South Carolina, Tennessee up here in Knoxville. The Gamecocks coming off a nice win. Tennessee's had a couple of weeks to try to get over Georgia. Home team favored by 3.
Yeah, and the Vols, they need to push the ball down the field more. Their leading receivers are running back John Kelly, and that's not a good thing. He's got 22 catches here. Rearranging the deck chairs and putting a new quarterback usually does not work out here. This is a desperate team. I think they realize that Butch Jones is probably at the end here. If he loses this game, it wouldn't shock me if he's let go even before the Alabama game. So he's got to win this game to save his job, in my opinion. If not, after Alabama, if they lose by 40 or 50 there, that might be the end. So I like South Carolina here. Play action with Bentley, I think it'll be effective against the Tennessee team that just doesn't have much defense. I like the Gamecocks 27-20.
Very good. Your game of the week, NC State favored by 11 against Pittsburgh.
Wow, NC State might be the best team other than Clemson right now in the ACC. So this team has come a long way. We're going to find out if they can keep it rolling here on the road against Pitt. You want to get NC State Pitt? Just be one of the first 10 callers, 800-400-9741. And like I said, you want to get involved with Paramount Sports, 7 for 77 at the website, and a lot of other free information. So there's big games going on around the country. A lot of undefeated teams like TCU taking on Kansas State, Wisconsin, Purdue, San Diego State's undefeated. All those videos are up and available for people to view for free, ParamountSports.com.
We wish you the best of luck this weekend because that's good for us, and we'll talk to you next week.
Okay. See you guys.
Take care. Lee Sterling, our Sterling picks here tonight on Sports Talk. So he thinks Clemson will cover, and he thinks the Gamecocks will win and won't need those points, Pro. He sees the Gamecocks winning by more than the 3 points they're getting.
Yeah, the big key, of course, is the early start. South Carolina seems to have to get all their cylinders in place, have to change the fuel, change the tires in the second quarter to get cranked up. They have to jump on Tennessee early from a psychological standpoint to make the Vols crowd just turn against them very early.
I just can't convince myself to lay the 22 with Clemson. I'm just scared of the offense from Syracuse maybe being able to punch in a couple of scores, and Clemson just, like they do, doing enough to winning by, 15, 17 points instead of winning by 30.
I just think that Syracuse, because of the nature of their offense, Phil, and they want to get in 80, 90 plays, they will put the ball in jeopardy. I think with that defense, your quarterback is going to get happy feet. He's going to panic, and he's going to try to put it up. They try to throw some of those prayers, and they're going to be picked off. You know, they're used to turnovers in that arena, but that's when the basketball court is laid down. They may see some similar turnovers from that Clemson defense tonight.
By the way, just checking, the spread has grown to 24. So the money's been coming in on Clemson to cover, and they increased that spread to 24 going into that game. All right, top of the hour, recruiting and more coming up. Don't leave us.
Just shake a wire and it'll disappear. Yeah, we're talking about North Carolina not getting any penalties, and the poor guy from NC State, the freshman basketball player, you took a couple of courses in summer school at Ohio State, so you're ineligible this year at NC State. Huh?
If I'm NC State, I'd be infuriated.
I really would be. And I heard that the courses he took at Ohio State were actually legitimate.
Round 2 of Sports Talk up next with your hosts Phil Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. Don't leave us hanging. Join the show, 800-956-7266.
Welcome back, Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network. Phil Kornbluth, Knoxville, Tennessee for Clemson, and the Vols. Pro back in Columbia. Will up at Syracuse for Clemson and the Orange. By the way, I'm dead serious about this, folks. If you're planning on coming up tomorrow for the South Carolina-Tennessee game, leave yourself plenty of extra time. If the traffic tomorrow morning is like it was today, it's horrible. I-26 from, all the way up I-26 out of Columbia, it was 2x2, but at least the traffic was moving, and it moved on through the state, started slowing down a little bit around Spartanburg, and then after you got through the first little piece of the mountains and got up around Hendersonville, stop and go and stop and go and stop. A lot more stopping than going. So be forewarned. And I did not see an accident. I did not see much construction. I just think it was extreme volume that was backing everything up. Now, there is construction where 26 and 40 merge in Asheville, and people are slowing down and backing up there. And maybe that's what's backing it up all the way down I-26 back towards Spartanburg. So just, take that into consideration if you're planning on driving up to Knoxville in the morning. Might want to leave now, to be quite honest with you. Pro, you're keeping an eye on the Tigers and the Orange. What is happening so far?
Yeah, we're talking about stopping and going. Syracuse has a drive going on. They got to the Clemson 20-yard line, just took a loss for 5 yards. Now it's 3rd and 15, but mostly on the wheels of Dungy. He's rushed for about, I would say, close to 30 yards on this drive.
Well, that was my fear from Clemson's standpoint. I mean, this is a athletically good quarterback who can run and throw, unlike, outside of Lamar Jackson, unlike anybody else Clemson has really played to this point in the season. But and we'll see what happens here. We'll see if the Tigers can get a stop and maybe force a field goal at the worst. Let's give you the recruiting report for tonight here on Sports Talk. Begin with some football news. Running back Harold Joyner of Mountain Brook, Alabama, remains uncommitted, has a strong offer list that includes Alabama, Auburn, LSU, Kentucky, Ole Miss, Syracuse, Central Florida, Missouri, Memphis, and others. Plus, Clemson has been recruiting him but has not offered yet. He said an offer from Clemson would give him something else to think about. He was at Clemson for the Auburn game. He's also been to Alabama 3 times. And Saturday, he's going to LSU for the Auburn game. He heard from Clemson running backs coach Tony Elliott via Twitter earlier this week, and he's telling him that he could be a good fit. They'd love to have him to come down to Clemson. He said a Clemson offer would put the Tigers high up on his list with Alabama and LSU. He likes how Clemson is starting to run the football better. He said Alabama is recruiting him hard and has invited him to every home game, but he's not one of those Alabama in-state prospects who feels obligated to go to Alabama. He would have no qualms leaving the state. He's not said officials yet. He said LSU, Alabama, and Auburn are likely, and Clemson probably would get one with an offer. There is no favorite. USC this week offered defensive end Jarrett Jackson of Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. He's a Louisville commitment, but is still drawing a lot of interest from others, with offers from Florida State, Wake Forest, Pitt, Duke, Kentucky, Virginia Tech, North Carolina, and Rutgers. The Gamecock offer did get his attention, and he's now considering them. He said Louisville has been his only unofficial visit this season. He did not reveal plans for future visits. Linebacker Dax Holyfield of Shelby, North Carolina, made his second official visit last weekend to USC for the Arkansas game. He did a video interview with Rivals yesterday. The reporter went to his school to seek him out, and he said a lot of good things on the USC visit stood out to him, or a lot of things stood out to him on the USC visit. He said he really enjoyed it. He liked how the defense is playing. He likes how Muschamp and Robinson and Hutzler are making this defense, as he put it. And he said that Jake Bentley and the offense are coming around. And he said as the year is going on, they're getting better. He's also been to Florida State officially. He'll take his third official this weekend in North Carolina. He'll also take officials to Virginia Tech and Stanford. It appears USC has dropped out of the running for former LSU cornerback Savion Smith of Gulf Coast, Mississippi Junior College. He told the Biloxi Sun-Herald after his game last night he's planning officials to Alabama, Mississippi State, and Auburn. No mention of USC. USC offered 2021 receiver Quentin Barnes of Nashville, according to Rivals. Now to basketball. Frank Martin has gone north of the border again, looking for talent. Of course, Dwayne Notice was a star for the Gamecocks who came from Canada. Now he's after 6'10" Casey Izagu, who's at GTA Prep in Mississauga, Ontario. The Gamecock coaches have been up to see him, and in fact, the entire team was at USC yesterday on their way down to Florida for some games, and they stopped and visited USC. His coach is David Cooper. He said South Carolina's at the top of his list, definitely at the top of his list with a small group of schools. Some of the others are Western Michigan, Old Dominion, St. Bonaventure, Princeton, Brown, and Creighton. He's an excellent student who could go to the Ivy League and do that academic work. The other thing here with Iziagu is that it's not a definite that he'll sign for the 18 class. He's only 17 years old, and his coach said it's possible he could reclassify to the 19 class. That is yet to be determined. His family's from Nigeria. He was born in the Bahamas, and he's a citizen of Canada who grew up in Ontario, and he is really starting to blossom as a player, according to his coach. 6'6" Zion Williamson of Spartanburg Day is on his official visit to Kentucky this weekend. This was a reschedule. He was supposed to visit Kentucky in September. He had to postpone that due to a family matter. He's also been to Kansas and has upcoming visits scheduled these next 2 weekends to Duke and UCLA, and he's been unofficially to Clemson and to USC. Now today, and this is something to note, his good friend, 6'2", Devon Dotson of Charlotte, committed to Kansas. Clemson had been recruiting Dotson as well. Maryland was thought to be the front runner for him, if you go by the internet recruiting experts, who got this one basically wrong, and so he has committed to Kansas. So check his shoes, Pro, and see what kind of shoes he likes to wear. My guess is he likes to wear Adidas, but that's just a guess on my part. USC women's targets 5'11" Kristen Williams of Little Rock, Arkansas, 6'4" Olivia Nelson Adota of Winder, Georgia, taking their officials to Connecticut this weekend. And some football visits. USC targets defensive end Joe Bulletapelli of Wake Forest, North Carolina, is visiting Maryland. Offensive lineman Jerome Carvin of Cordova, Tennessee, is visiting Mississippi State. Defensive back Israel Mukuamu of Bossier City, Louisiana, is visiting Georgia. And also Greenwood wide receiver Sam Pinkney is taking an unofficial visit to LSU this weekend. There you go. There's the recruiting report for tonight. Check it out on our website, SportsTalkSC.com. And, of course, you can always follow us on Twitter. Use the hashtag STRecruiting to get our information on Twitter. Pro, what's happening in the ballgame?
Well, Phil, at the risk of not doing play-by-play, just as you started your recruiting news, Syracuse scored a touchdown on a screen pass. A screen pass that you see Clemson blow up 90% of the time, missed one-on-one tackle, and 25 yards later, they're in the end zone. So it's 7-0 Syracuse. Clemson now driving, I think, up beyond their 45-yard line right now. So 7-0 Qs early.
Wow. Little wake-up call for the Tigers. Second time this year Clemson has trailed. They trailed Auburn 3-0 early in that one before winning 14-6. Okay, we'll be right back.
Been no more than 5 plays, and a penalty thrown in. The flat, one down the middle, and then another run, 2 runs, and then they're in the end zone. They popped it quick as a trap play.
Sports Talk is the sports talk show of Main Street, South Carolina. From the coast to the mountains, we cover it all.
Well, I told you earlier this week in talking about Clemson-Syracuse that when Clemson got the football, they'd score within 5 plays. Now, I didn't think they'd be down 7-0 pro, but they came right back in a hurry.
They came back in a hurry, and now Syracuse trying to get cute and almost got the ball intercepted. They handed it off to the running back. He reversed his field and threw a pass downfield that should have been picked off, but Clemson dropped it.
All right, well, we'll keep a close watch on that. And, of course, Will is there, so follow along with him on our Twitter sites at SportsTalkSC. And, of course, his post-game coverage coming up as well for you after the game tonight. In just a moment, we're going to talk to good friend Jimmy Himes about the Tennessee Vols as they prepare to take on the Gamecocks tomorrow night. We're brought to you by South Carolina soybean farmers and their checkoff. Learn more at scsoybeans.org. Pork powered by soy. Let's welcome in Jimmy Himes, veteran sports writer and sportscaster in the Knoxville area for many, many years covering the Vols, knows more about Tennessee than anybody else. But let me ask you this. How do you feel about major college football on Friday nights?
Well, hello, Phil. How you doing?
Good.
I would rather that be reserved for high school, to be frank with you. Having said that, not to be a hypocrite, if it's a good game on Friday night, I'll watch it. But I would prefer it not be on Friday night. I would prefer that they play on Thursday or Saturdays. That would be my choice. I would rather see high school football on Friday night and let colleges play on Thursday and Saturday.
Yeah, agree. And I'm like you. I mean, I peek at it, sometimes watch it if it's a good game, and obviously we're watching Clemson tonight. And also, before we get to UT, your thoughts on what came down today from the NCAA, or actually what did not come down today from them towards North Carolina?
I was stunned. I don't know why it took them 5 years to figure it out. If your whole case was based on this. If other students were able to take those courses, then it's not an extra benefit. Why did it take you 5 years to figure that out? I don't get that. And besides, wouldn't that just encourage other schools to say, okay, we're going to have bogus classes, but we're going to open it up for everybody? I thought it was a very poor decision by the Committee on Infractions. I still think that it is an extra benefit to allow the students to do this. And I made this example. Look, what if you decided, okay, we're going to have everybody's going to get $100 to sign an autograph, and we're going to have students and non-students do it. Well, if the students are getting $100 for it, is that not an extra benefit, even if other students are getting it? Of course it is. I thought it was a very poor decision.
Yeah, they've opened themselves up for many, many more problems. And, I mean, this is what the NCAA, which is nothing more than the schools themselves and the people who are on these boards represent the schools, but they're totally losing control here, and I think it's a matter of time before that organization implodes and something else emerges. All right, speaking of imploding, is Tennessee on the verge of imploding or recovering this weekend, you think?
Well, that's a good question. Tennessee's making a quarterback change. I'm one of the few in Knoxville that is not really enamored with that move because I haven't seen anything out of Jerry Garantano that tells me he's going to be successful. And if you say that it's the receivers and offensive line that have been every biggest part of that problem, why are you making a change? Now, I may be wrong about Garantano. He may come out and play great, but I've seen him in action in several games. I don't think he's ready. I don't think he understands the offense well enough. I think he's excitable when he comes in. He'll overthrow somebody by 8 yards. Now, if he's going to have success, he's going to have to run the football. He's going to have to be able to run the zone read the way it's supposed to be, and that's to read it. But I've got a sneaking suspicion that before the game is over, Darmody is going to be back in the game. So I understand Tennessee feeling like they need to make a move to spark the offense. Tennessee has not scored a touchdown in 6 quarters. They've had 1 field goal in the last 22 possessions. I get all that. I just don't know that Garantano's the answer.
What has Darmody not been doing to cost him his job? Just simply, obviously, shut out by Georgia. Just simply a case of not moving the team and getting them in the end zone? That's
a lot of it. And I'll say this. I think he's actually regressed a little bit. I think he stares down his receivers. I think he holds onto the ball too long. He did not throw the deep ball well against Georgia, and there were a couple of chances to hit that. Having said all that, he still has been better than Garantano. Now, not scoring points is the big issue, but I did think he played well in the second half in overtime against Georgia Tech, a Tennessee win. I thought he played well in the fourth quarter against Florida when it was 6-3 going into the last 15 minutes, but he has not been consistently good. And so I think that's hurt him, but he's also had about a dozen passes dropped, and he hasn't had very good protection from the offensive line. So I guess in short, I think Tennessee's offense is a hot mess, and I don't think Garantano can bail them out.
You know, I had a question about Will Muschamp, and of course he had better talent at Florida than that first game at South Carolina, but in your opinion, just watching that small sample size of 5 games, why has Will Muschamp coach team been able to best Tennessee?
That's a good question. I don't really have a great answer for you. One of those Florida teams went 4-8, and they beat Tennessee by double digits. So he's had good teams and bad teams that have beaten Tennessee. I think he's a really good defensive coach, and I think he has got the zone read figured out that Tennessee runs under Butch Jones. So and one of the things that he does, he does a nice job of taking away the run from the quarterback, and also he plays press coverage, and Tennessee receivers have seldom been very good at beating press coverage. So he's going to make you throw the ball downfield to beat him, and Tennessee has typically not been able to do that. And so I think it's because his defense have held Tennessee's offenses in check that has allowed his teams to beat Tennessee.
Talking with Jimmy Himes of the Sports Animal in Knoxville. Before that, of course, one of the outstanding sports writers in the state of Tennessee, covering the Vols for many, many years. It's been my theory, and I'm an outsider, but ever since they fired Philip Fulmer, the Tennessee football program has basically been wandering through the wilderness. And my opinion is when you have a Hall of Fame coach and he has a couple of down years, you give him a chance to fix it. And more often than not, I think that coach will. Tennessee's the example I use when people are ready to fire coaches too soon, because you keep replacing coaches and you don't get it right. And do you agree with me at all about that? Could Philip Fulmer have fixed his problem and returned Tennessee to national prominence?
I think he could have fixed the problem. National prominence is relative. Do I think he could have won an East Division championship in the last 10 years? I think he'd have probably won a couple of them. Whether he'd have been a top 10 team or won the SEC, I don't know, because Alabama would have certainly had something to say about that, and so would Florida. But to your point, it's interesting. Those that said he should have been fired say, well, he had 2 losing seasons in 4 years. That's correct. He also had 2 East Division titles in 5 years. So which one do you put the most emphasis on? Now, the other part of that is he was given one chance to turn it around, and he did. He hired David Cutcliffe. He won 9 games, then he won 10. He won the East. When he had a second bad year, he was not given a chance to turn it around. I was not 100% sold on firing him, but I certainly could understand them doing it. And one of the things that hurt him a lot, Phil, was they played Alabama that year. Alabama beat Tennessee 29-9. At the end of that game, there were about 30,000 Alabama fans and nobody from Tennessee left in the stands. And one of the prominent boosters told me later We can't have that. We can't have Alabama taking over our stadium and beating us like this. So Phil Fulmer had lost a lot of the fan base, and that led to him being fired. Now, that leads me to this comment. I'll be interested to see what the turnout's going to be for Tennessee, South Carolina. Phil, if they're less than 80,000 at that game, look out. Because that would really be another mark against Butch Jones.
Hey, Jimmy, great talking to you. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow, and thank you for sharing your infinite wisdom with us here on Sports Talk.
Well, you're nice to say that. I appreciate all the guest appearances you've made with us, and look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
Thank you, my friend. Jimmy Himes, he's one of the best in the business, man. I tell you, SEC, Tennessee, he knows it all, and he does a great job sharing the information with his people. We thank him for being with us tonight. Clemson missed a field goal, still 7-7 up at the Q's. Back in a moment.
Yeah, they line it up, bam, and then they go bam. They going bam. So Venables can't look at the offense quick to know what they're doing. He popped the pass right over the middle. I didn't even see it.
Now back to Sports Talk, South Carolina's most listened to sports talk show for more than 30 years.
And on this Friday night, we're brought to you by South Carolina Electric Cooperative, sponsor of the annual Touchdown Energy Cooperatives Bowl. Find out more about what the co-ops are doing all across the state. Visit ecsc.org and save the date, December 9th, for the Touchstone Energy Cooperatives Bowl. A lot of action up at the Carrier Dome over the last couple of minutes, good and bad for Clemson.
Yeah, a quick pop pass over the middle for about 20 yards. The receiver took it the rest of the way for Syracuse, about 45 yards. In total, 65-yard touchdown pass, 14-7. The Qs with Clemson driving. The key thing I see early, Phil, is because they're getting first downs, Clemson is not allowed. Brent Venables can't make any kind of shift calls because Syracuse is trotting right up into the line and snapping the football.
And Clemson missed a field goal. Was that a makeable field goal by Spence?
I did not even see it.
Okay. Yeah, he did miss a field goal, according to a tweet by Mr. Pologic. So, get to our picks for this week. I'm the only one to pick Syracuse and take the points. Everybody else took Clemson on our esteemed panel. By the way, let me update the standings and what happened last week. The big kahuna, Bobby Harton, bounced back from an 0-5 with a 4-1, so he's 19-11. Alan Smothers, the bad boy of Sports Talk Radio in the PD Grand Strand, went 3-2. He is 16-14. Mr. Pelagic went 2-3. Prince William is 15-15. And I am 15-15, by the way, 3-2 last week, so batting .500. The Pro went 2-3, and Matt the Newsman went 3-2. They are 14-16. And Kev Cohen, 2-3 last week, a one-time champion of this competition. He is in the basement at 12-18. So, again, I'm the only one to take Syracuse. Everybody else took Clemson. Everybody took South Carolina and the points except for Matt the Newsman. He took the Vols. Georgia Tech and Miami, and most of us are taking Miami except for me. I took Georgia Tech.
I did too.
I like getting those points. You took Georgia Tech. I like that 5.5. I think Miami's going to have a hard time with Tech and that offense. When Tech has a really good quarterback, and they do, they're good. And I think this is one of those years. The bad boy took Georgia Tech as well. Auburn, LSU getting 7 at home. I like that. I took the points in LSU, and Smothers took LSU. We're the only ones. And then A&M, everybody took A&M except for you, Pro, and except for Smothers. So you two are on the same limb out there with the Gators. I don't know. Their quarterback situation, coming off a loss at Texas A&M. If there's any such thing as a good loss, I mean, they played Alabama, a relatively tough game, tight game at home last week. I think Mond is getting better by the game as a freshman quarterback. They do have some weapons. I think they're getting 2.5 points. I mean, they might need the 2.5, but I think they can hang right in there with the Gators in the Swamp.
Well, it'd be interesting. I just get this feeling that I've not seen Texas A&M out of College Station this year. And then they're going into that humidity and, in Florida. It'll be interesting to see how they handle it. I think the Gators bounce back.
Yeah, they've played almost every game, if not every game, in Texas somewhere this year. So I'm not sure if this is their first time traveling, but it's pretty close to that. So there you go. Those are our picks for the weekend. Normally we have Monty Dutton, the full Monty on NASCAR, but he's at a high school football game tonight. I will tell you in his stead that Casey Kane led the second round of practice at Talladega today at 191.222. Look who was second quick, Dale Earnhardt Jr. at 191.069. Then it was Kurt Busch, Trevor Bayne, and Chase Elliott, top 5 in practice. They'll be qualifying tomorrow at Talladega for this weekend's race. It's always exciting at Talladega because you never know what's going to happen, especially in the final laps of that race. Pro last night, the Panthers lost at home to the Eagles. Carson Wentz looked really, really good. I don't know what the Panthers were thinking with their play calling on their last two possessions when they were down and had a chance to come back and go ahead. I thought the play calling looked a little panicky to me. What did you think of those last couple of possessions?
Yeah, I'm not so certain that they really did have. I know they were out of timeouts. I think they panicked on that end. But for whatever reason, it just looked like everything was going into the middle of the field. I didn't understand that. And of course, Cam Newton threw those 3 picks. And normally in the NFL, if you turn it over twice, you're dead meat. You turn it over 3 times, you're not going to win. Even though he was given that second chance when Philadelphia had a chance to salt the game away and threw that pass over the head of Alshon Jeffries, they would have given them a first down that probably let them run out the clock. And I think Alshon had 4 catches for 71 yards in that football game, but they look good. Now, Carson Wentz, of course, 3-4-time champion at North Dakota State. The guy's a winner, even at a lower level. And he's a huge quarterback. He looks like the kind of guy that's got the poise to take the Eagles somewhere this year.
Yeah, it was not Newton's best game. 28 of 52. A lot of passing there, 239 yards, sacked twice, 3 interceptions. And he, look at this. I mean, he led the team in rushing with 71 yards, but the leading rushers at running back, McCaffrey had 8 yards and Samuel had 8 yards. I mean, that's just, Stewart had 8 carries for -4 yards. They could not get the running game going whatsoever.
And when Philadelphia has good defenses, that's what they do. They take the run away from you, and they make you a throwing team. And that's exactly playing right into their hands. And normally, really on these Thursday night games, the team that travels is the one that looks sluggish. But it seemed like the Panthers staying at home got them sluggish. Philadelphia looked like they were a step faster all night.
Yeah, you go back to what I was talking about. Philly scored to go up 28-23. The Panthers got the ball. I'm sorry. Let me see if I got this right. The Panthers scored. The Panthers scored to cut it to 28-23. My bad. And then they forced a punt. They got the ball back on their own 23 with 5:49 to play. Plenty of time. And they came out throwing the football. A little pass to Benjamin. Then McCaffrey, a run up the middle for first down. Then a pass that got you a defensive holding. So another first down, but then another pass, then a sack, then a pass, then a pass, then a pass, then a pass. I guess they felt like they could do nothing but throw the ball. No attempt to get any kind of a running game going there. The other thing is, I mean, they were probably playing, I don't remember their defense, but I imagine the Eagles were playing relatively soft. You probably could have hit them with some inside runs to move the football and eat up some clock because, you didn't want to score. In this day and age, you want to score, but you can't score too quickly.
Mm-hmm. Well, the other key is the tight end had such a big game against Detroit. I thought he was going to be an integral part of the offense this time out, but they really couldn't get him cranked up. So Philadelphia, hats off to them because their push in their defensive line was consistent all night long.
Yeah, Panthers got the ball back after another pump, just over 2 minutes to go. By the way, Tony Romo, man, what a terrific analyst he is. I mean, that guy is on it. He was pointing out things that were going to happen, and by and large, they did happen. He made a great point right about the 2-minute warning when the Eagles could have run the clock down, run a play to get the clock under 2 minutes. They did not do that, and it gave the Panthers a chance to run a play and then get the 2-minute warning. That could have been costly to Philadelphia. It turned out not to hurt them. But on that last possession, they did complete a first down pass, but then 4 straight incompletions. And a lot of those passes, they just didn't look good. They just didn't have good stuff on the ball last night.
Tony Romo should be a good analyst. How many times have you seen him late in football games as the one that throws that interception? Even you used to say that when they played Green Bay. Oh, he'll throw one. And normally he did. So maybe he did learn something from throwing all those late interceptions.
Or fumbling snaps on important extra point attempts. Okay, we'll be right back here on Sports Talk.
they let him get one first down because I don't know what lineman it was, but he went at the quarterback's head and they called him for unnecessary roughness. No, I was talking about the game here. They let Syracuse climb out of the hole. They were at their own 2-yard line. They got one first down. They couldn't get the second. Had to punt it back to Clemson. Yeah. The bus go to Fort Gordon, then go to Atlanta. I never get the time to sergeant. You got to have an ID to get on that base. You go in there, girl from Spelman College, didn't have ID. Sergeant stand.
The guys are always checking email. Send your comments or questions to talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, more of Sports Talk from Columbia's Main Street.
We are rolling along here on this Friday edition of Sports Talk. Phil Kornblut in Knoxville with the Gamecocks preparing to take on the Vols tomorrow afternoon. Professor Tom Hayes at our studios in downtown Columbia. Will Pelagic up at the Carrier Dome at Syracuse. We'll get to him in just a moment. I want to remind you that we're brought to you by South Carolina soybean farmers and their checkoff. Learn more at scsoybeans.org. Pork powered by soy. And now let's head to the Carrier Dome and welcome in Prince William. A little bit of a surprise so far.
I would say so, Corn. Syracuse has definitely come to play through a quarter plus. About 2 minutes in, second quarter right now. It is 14-7 Syracuse with 13 minutes to play in the opening half. Clemson facing a 3rd and 10. Kelly Bryant scrambling for a chance to try and get a first down, and he comes up short. And a Clemson drive will stall around the 41. This Syracuse team has had a couple of very big plays, one on a very huge 66-yard pass to Steve Ishmael that was basically a blown coverage from Ryan Carter. They had double high safety. Carter went one way, as did Tanner Muse, and they ended up basically throwing right in between the two of them to get the big touchdown pass to Steve Ishmael, which is the difference in the ball game right now. The first touchdown came on a bad screen pass play by Mark Fields, a missed tackle by him that allowed Dante Strickland to go into the end zone. Clemson scored on its first drive of the game like they did last week and like they have done 5 times of their first 7 this year on a big touchdown run by Tavian Feast from 37 yards out. Clemson's defenses look kind of shaky, Corn. I would say inconsistent would be the best word to describe them. They've had 2 good drives and 2 very bad.
I think Pro made a good point earlier, Will, in talking about that, and that is the speed at which Syracuse is playing, getting those plays off. They're not allowing Venables to get a good read from his vantage point and make the adjustments quickly enough on defense. Would you agree?
I would say so, but I would say that they have at least done a little bit more of their homework here as the game has gone on. Again, we're only looking at a small sample size here as Syracuse will get the football inside their own 6. They're using a spy more on Eric Dungy. They weren't doing that to start. They've had Dorian O'Daniel basically right up against the line of scrimmage trying to shade against the quarterback run. I think they are going to play a little bit more press coverage on the 2 outside receivers, Phillips and Ishmael. And one thing, too, that they are doing a lot more of that they don't do usually is a lot of substitution packages. Anytime Syracuse subs a guy out, you're seeing guys come in for Clemson because they want to protect against that tempo, especially if they're on the field a long time.
All right, the Syracuse fans starting to sense that something special might be brewing in the Dome tonight?
It's loud here, Corn. I mean, let's not make 2 ways about it. It's the only dome in the conference right now, and it's a very unique, as Dabo Sweeney put it, it's a unique advantage because of the way that the crowd noise generates up here. It's not a big stadium by any means, as you know, but it doesn't take much to get things loud in here, and you can sense the partisan nature of this crowd. I think they wanted to erupt early. They've had their chances to do so, and they not only do they think that they're in it, they think they get a chance to win it right now, and they're up 14-7. And I think the fans, the 12th man, if you will, has been a big reason for that because there have been times where Clemson on offense has looked a bit confused when it comes to some of the plays that they're trying to run.
All right, very good. Reminder to everybody: follow Will as he tweets away from the Carrier Dome at SportsTalkSC on Twitter, and post-game coverage from Will with the comments from the Clemson locker room and, of course, a recap live on Periscope a little bit after the game. Thank you, Will. Talk to you later.
Enjoy Calhoun's tonight, Corn.
Yeah, I wish. All right, that's now we call him Prince William because he's related to royalty down there in Australia. Prince William Pelagic with us from Syracuse. Other games now involving state teams tomorrow. Let's take a look at what else is going on besides the Gamecocks and Tigers. Coastal Carolina is going to be at Arkansas State. You know, the Shots have only won 1 time this year. They beat UMass in their opener, lost to UAB, lost to Western Illinois, lost to ULM, lost to Georgia State. And this is their 3rd road trip in their 3rd different state. They've been to Alabama. They've been to Louisiana. Now they're going to Arkansas. South Carolina State, which got a big win last week, a week ago tonight at home against Morgan State. They'll play at Bethune-Cookman tomorrow. Furman, look out for Furman. The Paladins have won 3 in a row. They'll make it 4 in a row. They should beat VMI at home tomorrow. And Clay Hendricks has got things moving in a positive direction there after 3 straight losses to open the season. Of course, 2 of those were very close. Wofford and Elon played respectably at NC State. Then they beat Colgate, beat East Tennessee, and then really beat Chattanooga last week. So the Paladins might be on their way back. Going the other direction is the Citadel. The Bulldogs opened with 3 straight wins, then lost big to Samford, then lost big to Mercer. And they've got Wofford tomorrow night at Johnson Haygood Stadium. That's a huge game for the Southern Conference. It's a must-win for the Citadel. Wofford is undefeated. You talk about playing some very close games. Every one of their games has been a nail-biter. Furman, Mercer, Gardner-Webb. Presbyterian really wasn't a nail-biter, but Western Carolina was. So the Terriers are 5-0. going into tomorrow's game. Charleston Southern plays at Presbyterian tomorrow. Losers at Indiana last week. The Bucks are 3-2. They've beaten Elon, Point, and Mississippi Valley. Presbyterian also with 3 wins, defeating Campbell, Cumberland, and St. Francis. They've lost to Wake Forest, the Citadel, and Wofford. Newberry playing excellent football. Newberry winners of 4 in a row, hosting Tusculum tomorrow. Another chance for a South Atlantic Conference victory. The Wolves have won 4 straight. Benedict homecoming for the Tigers tomorrow against Clark Atlanta. Benedict is 3-2 on the season. North Greenville coming off a loss to Catawba last week. In fact, they've lost 2 in a row. Kennesaw State and Catawba will be at home against Florida Tech. The Crusaders are 3-3, and Limestone with a loss to Carson Newman last week after a win against Mars Hill. Limestone will be home against Lenoir-Rhyne tomorrow, and the Saints are 3-3 at this point. I think that loss to Carson Newman was a overtime game, if my memory serves me right. So that's a look at the other games around the state of South Carolina tomorrow. Hopefully you can get out and watch some college football. Updating some high school football as we check some of the tweets from reporters around the states. And Fort Mill is leading Rock Hill 2-0 in the first quarter. Edisto and Brooklyn Casey are scoreless. End of the first quarter. Dorman and Spartanburg are scoreless. Carolina Forest with a 14-7 lead on Sumter. A little bit of a surprise there. And let's see. Ridgeview is up in its game. Ridgeview is up 15-0. Off the top of my head, don't recall who they're playing. Let's see if anybody else has got any scores out here. Burns is leading Nation Ford 3-0. Westwood and York are tied at 7. Lamar leading Timmonsville 7-0. Bishop England 3-0 on Hanahan. Conway 14-0 on South Florence. So there you go, some of the scores. And a reminder that we will have scores for you tonight, high school scoreboard shows tonight at 10, 10:30, and 11, Pro.
Well, Clemson showing some uncharacteristic tendencies with their defense. This is the second time that Syracuse has been backed up at their own 5-yard line, and now they're back up toward the 30. 2 quick passes. And unfortunately for Clemson right now, it looks like Trayvon Mullen is down with an injury. Looks like maybe a shoulder.
They do not need more injuries in that secondary. They're testing their depth as it is, and it's good depth. But, again, you don't need to be losing another key player. Okay, Pro, thank you. Have a great weekend. Brian Leonard, thank you. Fabulous job. We appreciate your great work. Reminder, the scoreboards at 10, 10:30, and 11. Follow Will up at Syracuse. Follow me tomorrow in Knoxville. Until then, have a great night. We'll see you Monday night here on Sports Talk.